Matt Clark here at the new Matt Clark. How are each and every one of you doing on this amazing Saturday? I'm doing great. My girl's doing great. My family's doing great. Hope each and every one of you are doing great. And I hope you're having a beautiful weekend. The weather's amazing out. It's really hot and really humid, but nice. I'm not going to complain because I complain when it's cold, so I'm not going to complain when it's hot. You know what I mean? If you could please hit that like button, that subscribe button, and that bell notification button to get all my videos when they're new. If you could share with somebody on social media, help spread the message, help spread the word, that'd be amazing. And there's a PayPal option if you'd like to donate, help support the channel. The link is in the description of most of my videos. So what's up, what's up, what's up? How are you doing? I'm okay, man. I'm doing good, and I hope each and every one of you are having the best day. I hope all the negativity is behind you and you're just living in your most positive form. You know what I mean? That's what I hope. Today, we're not going to talk about anything violent or anything sad. We're just going to talk about something in prison that's important. So these are the top 10 things a Canadian federal prisoner just can't live without. Now, you could say a Canadian convict, period, but I'm going to be federal specific just because those guys are doing the highest amount of time. So if you're doing a real lengthy sentence in Canada, and for the most part, that's what you are going to experience. So this is why I'm doing this. And the number 10 most important thing that a Canadian con in the federal system can't live without is a fan. Now, I know everybody, especially people in the US, think that Canada is like the tundra all the time. It's like the Arctic. But in the summertime for like 2 or 3 months, it is extremely excruciatingly hot. Hotter than most places because of the humidity. And when that humidity comes into factor, it's regular 40 plus degrees Celsius. And it's really difficult because of how muggy and dank it gets. And it's just not comfortable. And if you are in the federal system where there is no temperature control, like in the provincial jails, they're so big and concrete, and the ventilation system is temperature controlled. So it's never super hot. It's never super cold. It's kind of always like the same temperature, although in the deep pits of the winter, it will get cold. But like, it's almost air conditioned, it feels like. In provincial, you don't experience the hot, crazy, muggy days because of the environment being controlled. If not, it would be sticky. The walls would be all wet all the time, so they have to have that. Well, in the pen, they don't have that. If you're in Millhaven Penitentiary, the walls are basically sheeted in metal. There's no air conditioning at all. So without a fan, you're going to suffer for 2 or 3 months out of every year, and sometimes it can be longer. It can be 4 or even 5 months, and you don't want to experience that. So spend the $30 and buy yourself a fan, and if you can't, try to find someone, try to get someone to donate one to your cause, because it's super important. So the number 10 most important thing, a fan. The number 9 most important thing that a con can't live without is food. Now, I know the prison provides food, but a lot of that food is not good. Now, for me, personally, I grew up in the system. I could eat anything, basically, that they sent up on the tray, but I'm a different animal. Most people that are in prison don't eat a lot of the stuff that comes up on the cart. They'll pick and choose, and they'll substitute with commissary. It's super important. In the federal system, commissary is much better. You can buy things like chicken wings and chicken breast pieces and like Italian sausage, hamburgers. There's things that you could buy and cook in the federal system that you won't have access to in the provincial system. But even in the provincial system, commissary and food supplementation is super important. That's why the number 9 thing on my list is food/commissary. Now, for number 8 on this list of what is most important thing that a Canadian con cannot live without in the federal system or in any system is mail. Now, mail is literally one of the only rights that you have in the system. Now, they can take phone calls from you. If you're in segregation, loss of all privileges, you will not have phone calls, but you will have access to mail. In the provincial system, they give you 2 free stamps every week or every month. I don't know if it's every week or if it's every month, but it's one of those 2. And that is a way that you can keep in contact with the outside world. Now, I know what most people are going to think. They're going to think about the next thing on the list. But at the end of the day, there are circumstances where people don't have access to that. And this is the only way they can communicate with their loved ones. I know it's snail mail. I know it takes a long time, but people want pictures of their family. People want pictures of their girls. People want stuff sent in through the mail. The mail is super important. It makes you happy when you hear your name called, that mail has come, and it makes you sad when you realize that that's some stupid mail that you're not happy about. But at the end of the day, we all know how important mail is to a convict on a day-to-day. So that's why, for me, number 8, most important thing that a con can't live without is mail. Now, number 7 on this list is something that a lot of cons probably should live without. It probably creates a lot of violence, a lot of tension, a lot of stress, a lot more than is necessary. But at the end of the day, it's important, and that is the phone, aka telephone. Now, if you are a phone bug, there are a lot of those guys that do time. If you are a phone bug, you know who you are. I got no quorums with it. At the end of the day, everybody does their time differently, and if nobody's going to say anything to them and allow them to just burn the phone all day long, all the power to you. If you can afford to do that, all the power to you. Me personally, I always felt like my time was easier when I didn't have a constant communication and reach with the outside world. I always felt like trying to maintain a relationship in prison just brought a lot more stress than was necessary, especially if the relationship isn't already like a marriage or there's kids involved. Most likely, if you're doing any kind of substantial amount of time, it's going to be real hard to keep that relationship together. And sometimes it's not even worth the stress of trying. But a telephone is super important. It's the fastest way for you to find out things that are happening with your family. And it's just necessary, you know. You really need the telephone when you're doing time. And even if it's not for your family, it's calls like lawyers and things like that, then it's equally as important. You know, you can't, nobody can go through a whole trial without having communication with their lawyer. And it just shows how important a phone is. So number 7 on my list, most important thing for a Canadian con in the federal prison or in any prison or jail is the telephone. Now, number 6 on this list for me was the all-time most important. Now, this is music, okay? Now, music is like medication for the soul. When you're down, you're out, you turn on some good music, and it can uplift you. It can bring your spirits up as long as you're listening to the right music. But music definitely helps a lot of people get through really tough times, and it is super important for people doing time. Now, music is also another thing that can create a lot of issues. A lot of guys want to listen to music super, super, duper, duper loud, despite the fact that they're driving everybody else insane and they're being super inconsiderate. But at the end of the day, you'll take that just so you yourself have access to music and the ability to kind of let loose, let your mind go, and not worry about the things on the inside. Because if you're constantly just worried about what's going on in jail or prison, it can get to you, man. It can really strain and stress your mind, and I don't think it's good for you. And music is one way for you to kind of take your mind and get out of your circumstance, even if just briefly. Now, I'm going to throw a runner up in here. It doesn't matter. Everybody knows how important this is. That's why I'm not even bothering putting it on the list. But that is sleep. There are a ton of cons that will sleep their time away. And there are a ton of people that will sleep their life away. Sleep is super important. It's necessary. And it's a runner-up for the list. I'm not putting it on the list. I'm not going to get super deep into it. But sleep. Now, the number 5 thing on my list for most important things for cons that are doing time in the federal prison system or provincial system is sports. Now, in the provincial system, you can't really play sports. You'll make up stuff. You'll do little things on the block. But sports in the federal system and weight training and exercise is key to keeping your mind stable, keeping yourself out of trouble, and keeping yourself in the physical shape that you need to be in if trouble does come your way. Now, sports are a good way to meet new people. If you are like a guy who's not really into like gangs, you don't really want to get involved in the subculture, you don't really want to be involved in anybody doing anything bad, the best way for you to meet some friends and people to spend your time with is in sports. People that are like-minded, people that, you know, in other circumstances probably wouldn't be talking to each other, is through sports. Competition brings people together. Of course, there are fights in sports because of competitive nature, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. If you are in prison and you have the opportunity to play sports, you should do that. It's not only a great way to pass time, keep yourself healthy and physically fit, but physical health is key to mental health. And I truly believe that. If you are constantly feeling like crap, if your body just is beat up and just waste, you're going to feel like crap mentally. You're going to feel insecure. You're not going to feel good about yourself. And I just truly believe that. So sports, weightlifting, things like that, number 5 on my list for most important things or top 10 things that a Canadian convict can't live without. Now, number 4 on this list is cards, games, but specifically cards. Now, there's lots of guys that play things like Risk. Is it Risk? There's guys that'll play Monopoly. There's guys that'll play board games and stuff. But the reality is most people play cards, whether you're playing Crazy Eights, whether you're playing Spades, whether you're playing Bid Whist, or whether you're playing Bridge. If you are doing time for any amount of time, you're going to learn how to play some cards. And cards are an amazing way to not only keep your mind fit and keep your mind trained and alert, it's also a great way to pass time and just have some fun. And it's like sports. If you're new on a block and you know how to play some cards, just tell people, I'll play cards. It's a good way to meet people and to actually see people for who they are. Now, like anything that there is in prison, there's shadiness all around. And you definitely have to be careful if you're playing cards and you're gambling, especially if you're new. They will try to fish you out of every dollar you have, every cent of commissary you have. So be careful. You're probably better off to just play and not gamble and just try to have fun and learn who's who on the block and who you can play against, and probably to see if you're as good as guys, because guys are playing cards all day long in prison or jail, right? So the number 4 most important thing for me on the list of what a Canadian convict can't live without is cards. Now, number 3, a lot of people, I don't think anybody will disagree with this. Number 3 is books. A Canadian convict cannot live without books. Now, for me, it was way more in provincial I needed books, not in federal, right? In federal, I had a TV, and once I have a TV, I'm very ADHD. It's hard for me to pay attention to a book when I have a television right there, or I have music right there. Not saying that I never read anything, but when I was in provincial, I would read book after book after book after book because I wouldn't sleep, right? When you're healthy, I don't know, I could sleep, right? But I had like a specific routine. And if I didn't go into my cell and read for a little while, and let my eyes get tired, I would have a hard time sleeping. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of echo from the TV, and it's just a good way to kill time. Unless you want to stand at a window and look through a thing like this to watch TV through glass where you can barely hear it, you're straining every word, books is going to be the best for you. And then there's also the importance of like law books and understanding your rights and the rights of convicts in Canada, especially if you're somebody who's trying to appeal your case and you're trying to figure out case law and things like that. Books are super, super, super important. And as well as when you're in jail, there's nothing more important than trying to get your schooling done. Like it's there for the taking. You're doing nothing better with your time anyways. It's really difficult to get through life now without even college, but a high school is necessary. So if you're in jail and you haven't got it, just take the time and do it. It is what it is. Books. Number 3, what a Canadian con cannot live without in the Canadian prison system, specifically federal, but also provincial. Now, number 2 on my list, I don't know if everybody will agree with this, but to me, number 2, most important thing is fresh air. Fresh air. The thing about being in prison is it has a prison smell. It's grody. You can tell that there's been death and there's sadness, and it just has a smell to it. And the fact that not everybody's clean, not everybody cares about throwing stuff out, it's musky, it just has a prison smell. So to me, the ability to go outside and breathe in fresh air, just close your eyes, take a deep breath, and just kind of, just not have to smell that smell was detrimental. When I was in Joyceville is right on the Rideau River. And I would get up in the Saturday mornings, because Saturday mornings, if you went out early, before a lot of people were out there, you'd see a lot of wildlife. You'd see a lot of birds like ospreys and terns, and you see groundhogs, and just you're able to take the sun in and just breathe the fresh air, because Joyceville is like right out in the middle of nowhere. And for me, it just helped me get through those 7 years, I couldn't imagine being in one of those jails like Lindsay, where you're literally like in a pie-shaped range. It's all concrete wall around you, but the top is open and there's mesh above it for 20, 25, 30 years, how you have to do in the States and in some supermax prison. To me, that's torturous, but at least you can still breathe the fresh air, That is key. So number 2 on the list for me, fresh air. Now number 1 is obvious. It is the most important thing, not only for the inmate or the convict that is doing the time, but also for the system, and that is television. Now, when you're in provincial, there is a TV on the range, so although you won't have one in your cell, there is one on the range that'll play music, and it'll play sports, and it'll play movies and stuff. It is like the ultimate babysitter. And then in the federal system in Canada, you have access to movie channels and sports and all those things in your cell, which is the number 1 way to kill time. Let's be honest. If you're locked down, if you're in the middle of a Section 53 search for weapons, where you can literally be locked in your cell for 2 weeks, that television is key. Now your back will be destroyed after lying on one of those little prison mattresses for 2 weeks at a time. But if you didn't have that TV, you'd be banging your head off of the concrete walls. Now, everybody's going to have a different list of the most important things. But to me, personally, without these 10 things, it would be a really, 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 really stressful amount of time. This is the whole reason for Prisoners Justice Day is to pay respects to the cons that lost their lives fighting for us to have the ability to have these rights and to have these things. And I know we're coming to a much more progressive point, especially in Canada, and who knows what prison's going to look like specifically with these safe injection sites and stuff in jail, which we'll be doing a video on soon. But at the end of the day, a television is crazy important. Obviously, I share my stories with you guys, so you guys don't have to go through these things yourselves. Nobody wants to go to prison. Let's be honest. Like, there might be 0.000000% of a amount of crazy people that actually want to be in prison. But the reality is, circumstances and life puts people in a position where they have to do things to survive, and those things land them in prison. Hopefully by watching my videos, they'll get the education that they need so they can go in and they're not in danger and they don't mess fucking energy up on the range. And it just gives you a kind of understanding of what will be expected of you. And for family or anybody who's on the outside and has loved ones on the inside, it'll give you an opportunity to kind of understand what your loved ones are going through. If you could please hit that like button, that subscribe button, and that bell notification button so you get all my videos when they're new. If you could share with somebody on social media, help spread the message, help spread the word, that'd be amazing. And there's a PayPal option if you'd like to donate, help support the channel. The link is in the description of most of my videos. I love y'all, man. This is the top 10 things a Canadian con cannot live without in the prison system. You just can't. Let's be real, right? You just can't. Look at that list again and tell me differently. If you want to hit it up in the comments and tell me what your list would be, I'm all ears. But this for me is what I think. Love each and every one of you. The New Mac.